The chaos is barely settled, and it is time for a Monday morning edition of Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we got you covered on everything you need to know. We got some WNBA, we got some Ryder Cup, and of course, NFL reactions galore because last night, we get it finally. Finally, Caroline, we can all just breathe a collective sigh. Oh, the Chiefs are back. I don't know. I feel like we all walked into a Sunday night matchup expecting a slaughter. The Chiefs get a win, their first win of the season, and now we can overreact to the Chiefs finally getting off the schneid. We left them for dead. They're not dead yet. Kansas City gets a big win, my friend. And all I keep thinking about is, yep, it takes just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's like letting a gremlin have water after midnight. It's just a little of it, and all of a sudden, boom, the beast is back.
Are they? Are the Chiefs back? Are the Chiefs back after an absolute clunker of a first half against the crummy, crappy Giants? Are they back? Now, look, what they did do was avoid disaster. And disaster would have been falling to 0-3 after falling to the New York Giants on primetime television. That would have been absolute disaster. But they didn't. They won. They kind of got that monkey off of their back. They got the first win of the season. And in the second half, it did kind of feel like maybe there was just a little bit of that magic fairy Chiefs pixie dust. It did start to feel like maybe we were starting to see the Kansas City Chiefs turn over a new leaf and start to find some explosiveness offensively. After that Mahomes fumble recovery, I thought, okay, that is some Chiefs magic stuff. When Patrick Mahomes threw a backwards pass for some reason, they fumbled it and he just knocked it out of the defender's hands. That was some Chiefs magic. And then we saw the first drive out of halftime, 11 plays, 74 yards. Patrick Mahomes got Juju Smith-Schuster involved, got Isaiah Pacheco involved, got Broussard Smith involved, got Travis Kelce involved, got Tyquan Thornton involved. 6 different receivers, 6 different players touched the ball on that drive. And the drive that really put the game on ice, the Chiefs were up 7 in the fourth quarter. They were facing a 3rd and 10 at the Giants' 34. And Patrick Mahomes hit Tyquan Thornton for a 33-yard pickup. That was the kind of Chiefs explosiveness, Chiefs late game magic that maybe we got accustomed to seeing. Now, it was against the Giants, and the Giants are not a very good football team. But we saw some pieces that were maybe reminiscent of the Chiefs that we know and that we love. Maybe,
I think
perhaps.
it's the some pieces part of it, because you're right. Look, we could write this headline in a couple of different ways. We could write this headline as, Chiefs get a big win, or we could write this headline as Chiefs survive. And I don't think either of them is actually inaccurate, because let's be real. The Giants were without most of the game, a fully effective kicking game that caused them to miss an extra point. They weren't comfortable kicking field goals. When Graham Gano did kick a field goal in the second half, it was painful to watch him try and just work his way off the field afterwards, right? So, just the Giants were a bit of a shell with that. And this game, while the final score is 22-9, was a one-score game throughout the majority of it. We could look at it certainly and say, man, what a turd of a game. I would say this, Caroline, though. Thornton, to me, was key in the second half. And this was one good half from the Chiefs. But seeing Tyquan Thornton sort of get unlocked a little bit there comes back to the thing that I've been saying for 2 weeks now, that when they get Xavier Worthy back and when they get Rashee Rice back, this offense has layers to it that it simply doesn't have today. So as I looked at this late last night, I was thinking, man, if this is who Thornton turns out to be, and all of a sudden you stack onto that, I'm going to give a lot of benefit of the doubt here, but when you're the Chiefs, you've earned it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that Xavier Worthy manages to get healthy and stay healthy, and then the benefit of the doubt that Rashee Rice comes in the football shape we think he's going to be, even though he's facing a 6-game suspension right now, serving a 6-game suspension. When he comes back in, boom, he's suddenly all gas, no brakes. And if that's the case, you've suddenly added 2 new elements to it, and you've taken Thornton, who's getting this second half opportunity to really shine, and you're putting him in as your third corner or your third wide receiver. Now all of a sudden I'm looking around saying, there's elements to this. This looks a little different. This is the thing we're going to do, though. If we're being honest as a whole, we're all sitting here, and just the general sports community is sitting here waiting for a reason to say, yep, Chiefs are fine. Chiefs are fine, because for the most part of the last several years, they've been fine. So really, last night, they were fine, and they won a football game. But does that mean that they are fine moving forward? I think there is some element. Look, they are still not in the same class as the Bills. They are still not in the same class as the Ravens. And let's be clear, the Chiefs today are not in the same class as the Los Angeles Chargers. Change that. The Chiefs right now are not competing for the AFC West. They're competing for a playoff spot. And when they get to the playoff spot, we'll overblow the nobody wants to face the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's who Kansas City is trying to be this year. I just think if that's the goal, if the goal is, all right, can we see it start to click? We saw some of that last night. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you breathe a little sigh of relief. I don't know you have a ton of joy, but at least you get the win.
I totally see a reality where in January we're talking about, the Chiefs getting a wild card spot and whatever team that they have to play in the first round of the playoffs is like, seriously, like, we won our division or we got to, whatever point in the playoffs, and what we get rewarded with is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I do think that is a reality that we could be talking about at some point, in some form or fashion. But this Chiefs team does not look like the Chiefs teams that we have seen over the past couple of years. And yes, Rashee Rice is going to come back. And yes, we're going to get Xavier Worthy back, and maybe adding those two on top of the emergence of Tyquan Thornton that we saw last night. Like, when you have three legitimate explosive pass catchers, totally, this offense could be reimagined, especially when you have Andy Reid at the helm. Then yes, 100% that there is a world that I see this Chiefs offense being a problem on top of a Chiefs defense that can be a problem as long as Chris Jones is wearing a Kansas City Chiefs uniform. But Travis Kelce does not look like Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce looks old. Like, Father Time is catching up to Travis Kelce, and so much of the Chiefs magic that we have seen in the past is because of that Patrick Mahomes-Travis Kelce connection.
Can I be a prisoner of the moment, my friend, for just a minute? Just let me be a prisoner of the first 3 weeks.
Please.
The Kansas City Chiefs are Biff. Like, for anybody that remembers Back to the Future, Biff was the bully, right? And then at the end of the movie, you come back, and Biff is suddenly, like, old and washing the car, and it looks like that. That's the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been a bully for the last few years. Right now, the Chiefs feel more like when you go back to your high school reunion and you see the bully again, and you're like, ha-ha, how you feeling now, buddy? Like, right now, what we know is inevitable. If the Chiefs make the playoffs, what everybody's going to say is, you don't want to play this Chiefs team. Oh, you don't want to take them on. And yeah, you do. Why? Because this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs of last year or 3 years ago or 4 years ago. You're right. The Chiefs right now look old. And the Chiefs right now, they struggle to win a game against a team that they should be much, much better than. They get the win. And I'm the last person in all of media that I think wants to leave the Chiefs left for dead. I continue to say I think they will make the playoffs. I think they're two different conversations. Will they make the playoffs? Yeah, they're the Chiefs. Is anybody really scared of this version of the Chiefs? No. Like, this is a little bit like facing George Foreman when he's 40. He might get a good hit, but he ain't George Foreman anymore. And that's what the Chiefs this year, right now, 3 weeks, the Chiefs feel like they're the old, bloated, I'm over the hill, fat version of what they used to be.
It's kind of how I feel about Alabama. After Alabama lost to Florida State, myself as an LSU fan was like, ha ha, suckers, you're not the team you used to be. I still don't want to play you though. I still don't want to be on the other end of receiving an Alabama wrath or a Kansas City Chiefs wrath. Like, they still have that. It is still Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And you bring up that bad team that they should have beaten in the Giants. There are layers to that I do want to get into. But before we move on to the Giant side of things, we just saw a still of Travis Kelce and Andy Reid going at it on the sidelines. We saw that in the Super Bowl. This is not the first time that we have seen those two in a screaming match with each other on the sidelines. And Andy Reid talked in the postgame and said, we want our guys to be fiery. We want our players to have that kind of passion. And I know that's the way that Andy Reid is going to be approaching all of this. What's our concern level with that? With Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, not the first time going at it. Are we concerned about that?
Look, we're never concerned about that when it results in wins. I think the problem is like it's the Belichick all over again. For years, it was Belichick could be a crotchety old man and nobody cared because he won Super Bowl. So if he wants to be condescending and a jerk to the people that are around him, and if he wants to treat everybody that walks in that building a certain way, he can do it because he's Belichick. Until all of a sudden he can't do it because he's Belichick. Like, there is some element of the Chiefs in the past have had the one thing that lets any sort of issue on the sideline go away. They win a bunch of football games. Winning cures everything. And certainly guys get heated on sidelines. Certain coaches and players have that sort of relationship. I'm not concerned about it, But look, at the same time, we're not concerned about A.J. Brown reading a book as long as A.J. Brown starts to get his targets and they start to win football games. Like, there's a fine line. We hold the Chiefs to a different standard because they've won so many damn football games. Like, they win. So I get it. And this is that moment where we presume everything's going to be just fine because it's always just fine. But, like, what if it isn't? And I know, they pulled the standings up right now. 1-2. I mean, 1-2 is just less than we expected for Kansas City. And it's not a pretty 1-2. Like, right now, I don't know that the Kansas City Chiefs are actually any better than the Denver Broncos are. I don't know that. And that's a weird statement. They are better than the Raiders, but they're not better than those other two. What about the other side of this matchup? Because the Giants did get a win here, and we have buried the Giants didn't get a win here. The Giants lost here. We started with the winner. But we have buried some good from the Giants because the Giants defense played really well throughout portions of this game. It's just Russ was just bad. Like, what are we doing? When is it time, Caroline Fenton, to just start the dart? Because to me, I want to be clear. Our producer, Mike Goldfarb, big Browns fan. Every time we have a meeting, he says, let's get Dylan Gabriel. Let's get Shedeur. Let's change the offense. And my answer to that is always, why? Like, we don't know what's going on in practice. Maybe the guys just don't see what they need to see in practice. Okay, that's been my argument. I listened to a Sunday night broadcast last night that for 3 hours told me how excited the building is for Jackson Dart, how you can't contain the joy. They're giddy inside the halls for who Jackson Dart is going to be. And then I watched the quarterback go out there and make stupid mistakes that a quarterback at his tenure, at his status, should simply not be making against the Chiefs. And I'm wondering, like, the hell was it going to take? Like, that version of Russell Wilson, like, Jackson Dart could have given you that offense. Put him in.
I saw Russell Wilson throw the ball away on 4th down. Like, what? You don't do that. You're a veteran quarterback. That is something that a rookie quarterback does. That is like what a college quarterback does in his first year as a starter. Like, that's not what 255-year NFL veterans do. And that's how long Russell Wilson has been in the league. That I am with you, that I have always taken, maybe 256. I've always taken the approach of slow cook the young quarterback, that it is much better to sit the young quarterback on the bench for too long than throwing him out there too early. But I watched that Giants team last night, and I watched that Giants team against the Cowboys in week 2. And my takeaway from both of those games is this team might be a competent quarterback away from being a playoff team. I mean, look at the young dudes that they have on that team. Cam Scatterbo, I am so glad that the NFL world has finally discovered Cam Scatterbo, because anybody that watched him at Arizona State last year would know that he is an absolute freaking dude. Cam Scatterbo had 120 total yards last night, 60 on the ground, 60 through the air. That's the kind of guy that he is. Then you add on Malik Nabers on top of that, who Russell Wilson tried to get murdered in the end zone last night. Abdul Carter is a dude defensively. Brian Burns defensively. There are so many really talented young players that this team can continue to build around, but they can't continue to build around it when you've got Russell Wilson making all these kinds of mistakes that he's making, when he's turning the ball over at the clip that he's making, when he's not hitting receivers that he should as a veteran quarterback. So I'm kind of becoming team #start the dart, because it can only reignite and add energy into this team.
You can't tell me for 3 hours that the building loves him and can't wait for him, and then tell me that he's not ready. It just doesn't make sense. At least Cleveland's being quiet about the development of their quarterbacks. All right, let's get to another big AFC West matchup, though, that had huge ramifications to the Chiefs and everybody else. The Chargers eke out a 23-20 win over the Broncos. That was a weird game. I mean, the Broncos were up by a touchdown with 2.5 minutes to go. The Chargers score the tying touchdown, get the ball back, and then get the winning kick as time expires. The Chargers, this is the biggest difference, though, to me, Caroline. And I think it was Mark Schlereth that may have said this yesterday. The Chargers are no longer charging. Like, maybe the most powerful thing that Harbaugh has done has instilled the ability to win close games. And that's real. The margins this year are so slim for some of these teams. For the Chargers to be sitting at 3-0 with all 3 wins coming in the AFC West, and then to win this game against a team where it looked like for much of it was just an ugly football game, but they found a way to win at the end. Good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. Oversimplification, but there's some truth to it. So now the Chargers sitting at 3-0 for the first time since 2002. They are clearly the class of the AFC West. There is no doubt about it. And they are trying to push their way into that same tier as the Ravens and the Bills. And man, the way Harbaugh is coaching this team and the way that Herbert is playing right now, it is electric, it is elite, and it absolutely has everybody else spinning on their heads.
The Chargers are in the class of the Bills and the Ravens because Justin Herbert has been playing like he's in the class of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Because whatever clutch gene it feels like Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs offense lost, the Chargers have it now. And Justin Herbert has it now. And there's been that one clip that I think has been going viral for a very good reason. His flashiest play of the game. And the only play that I would have needed to see to say, yep, that guy's different. And that Justin Herbert is a different version than maybe the previous iterations that we have seen. Fourth quarter, Chargers are down 7. 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. It is 2nd and 6. Justin Herbert is facing pressure on both sides. He steps up, and both of those defenders just crash into each other because Justin Herbert just so sneakily steps up into the pocket. He scrambles left. Nick Bonito is right in his face, so Justin Herbert wraps his arm around Nick Bonito's body and throws the ball that way and hits Keenan Allen so perfectly in the end zone for a touchdown. That kind of play is something that I don't think very many people on this planet, and that kind of throw is something that I don't think a whole lot of players in this league can make. And it was a game-changing play, set them up for the win. The defense got a stop, forced a 3 and out, and they were able to hit a field goal to win it 23-20. Like that kind of magic is not something that we've seen from Justin Herbert or this Chargers team before.
And we've seen an evolution in the way they throw the football. It's something that Matt Harmon on fantasy shows has pointed out several times. This is now a throwing football team. Keenan Allen, 3rd in the NFL in wide receivers and catches. He's 10th among wide receivers in receiving yards, and he's 2nd in wide receivers for touchdowns. That's all speaking to how this offense is built. And we thought that this offense was going to be in the view of what Harbaugh typically does, which is ground and pound and make games obnoxious. But you look at the way that this team is being run and this offense is being run, and then you look at that efficiency that you see in the fourth quarter. Justin Herbert is doing absolutely everything. Like, we have been tough, I think, on this show on Justin Herbert, waiting for these moments, waiting for the moment where it clearly becomes that he belongs in these conversations. It becomes apparent that that is the fact. And so far this year, that's been apparent. I mean, we talk about clean football. We talk about staying on schedule. We talk about not making mistakes. Justin Herbert does all of those things while also being aggressive when he needs to be aggressive at the right times in the right ways. And it's why the Chargers aren't just a fluky 3-0. The Chargers are a kick-ass 3-0 right now. And clearly, if anybody is going to be scared of a team in the AFC West, it's not the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not the Broncos defense. It's the Los Angeles Chargers. Welcome to the party, Chargers. You guys look like you're going to be elite this year. We got tons we're going to break down. We haven't even gotten to, meltdowns and then the thick 6 for the ages. My God, can that man run? We'll tell you about it next. 19.59 miles per hour was the max speed for Jordan Davis on his kick return for a touchdown, his block kick return, I should say. Fastest speed reached by an NFL player weighing 330 plus pounds since at least 27 per Next Gen Stats. I just want to remind everybody, just in general, Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports Daily, when we sit here and we yell about any of the fat guys playing football on Sundays, every single, like the largest guy on an NFL roster is still going to outrun the armchair quarterback that is convinced that they could actually be an Olympian if they had dedicated more of their life. Like the dude that's yelling at the TV, you are not an athlete. Jordan Davis is. I mean, when you think about what Jordan Davis did on a blocked kick that was the biggest bad beat I can ever remember. For anyone that doesn't know what a bad beat is a gambling line that's right on the edge. And a bad beat is one moment in sports that takes all the money from one side getting paid to money on the other side getting paid. Remember that this line closed, depending on where you had it, at about 3.5 as the Eagles were favored. The Rams were going for what would have been a game-winning kick. Even if they missed a kick, if you had the Rams on that bet, you were fine. Even if the kick was blocked, you were fine. You weren't fine if the kick was blocked and then returned by Jordan Davis, who was running like he had money. Just he saw money in the end zone. He was running for it so hard. My guy, a huge moment and a huge win for the Eagles in this situation because, I mean, clearly when you start talking about the Eagles, we need to put more respect on their names.
And why aren't we putting respect on their names? The reigning Super Bowl champions who are now 3-0 with maybe some of the most impressive collection of wins in the entire National Football League. And I think the biggest thing for me, Fitzy, that I stepped away from yesterday, maybe two things. One is Eagles find a way to win. Good teams find ways to win games, especially against very good teams like the Rams. And two, I think the biggest concern of mine about this Eagles team was the pass game just was not very dynamic. It was not very exciting. Everything that the Eagles wanted to do, they did on the ground, whether it's running with Jalen Hurts or running with Saquon Barkley. And look, when you have Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, you are going to run that ball. But you're not going to be able to withstand that kind of style of offense without getting your two receivers involved, your two elite receivers involved. We saw A.J. Brown get involved yesterday in the pass game more than we have by far this entire season. And that was very refreshing to see. Seeing A.J. Brown a big part of the pass game.
I think there's a moment for me with the Eagles that it is time to recouch our conversation. We spend a lot of time trying to talk about and figure out where we are on the Kansas City Chiefs because the Kansas City Chiefs are a dynasty. And that is very, very true. What we've seen from the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes has been absolutely incredible. And we've spent a lot of time trying to put them in the same conversation as Brady and Bill, and we do all of these things all the time. But if we're being honest at this point, let's take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been in the Super Bowl 2 of the last 3 years, including one win, one dominant win, right? Now they are 3-0. And those 3 wins have come against a division opponent, which is supposed to be always a difficult thing to do, against the Kansas City Chiefs that we talk about all the time, and against the Rams, who were supposed to be the one team that was positioned to beat them. In fact, the Rams were up in this game 26-7, and there was never a moment where the Eagles felt like they panicked. In fact, and anyone has seen it on social media, Jalen Hurts' reaction to the block kick, return for a touchdown, calm, cool as a cucumber. Why? Because there's just nothing that phases this Eagles team. While we are busy talking about the dynasty of the Chiefs, I think it's time to change that entire conversation. The dynasty we're seeing today is the Philadelphia Eagles. Not will be, not could be, not should be, is the Philadelphia Eagles. When you have gone to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, you are 3-0, and you are beating the snot out of everybody up and down the way. When you are winning games however you need to, when you have the talent they have, when you are as young as they are and as dynamic as they are on the defensive side of the ball, when you have a surefire answer at quarterback that you trust that works with your coach the way that they do, when you have the talent that they have at the wide receiver position, and if not the best, one of the best running backs in the entire game, while you're doing it with an offensive line that is consistently elite. Where is the fatal flaw to the Philadelphia Eagles? The answer is it doesn't exist. And it's time to start taking all that respect we are desperately trying to heave on the Chiefs at every single point and move it over to the Philadelphia Eagles. The current dynasty right now, this year, happening in the league is Philadelphia, not Kansas City.
I can't use the D word yet. Going to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, yes, absolutely. That is part of the reason why I think the Eagles very much so can be riding a dynasty. You got to do it again. You have to win another Super Bowl. That's what the Chiefs did. Yes, I think that you can be very encouraged by what the Eagles have done through 3 games, but it's only through 3 games. I cannot call you a dynasty because you won a Super Bowl, came back the next year, and looked like one of the best teams in the league through 3 weeks. I cannot go that far. But what I can say is, you say not should be, not can be, but is. I say can be. I will say absolutely can be. You go back to another Super Bowl 3 and 4 years, you win 2 in a row. Yeah, you're a dynasty, 100%. Winning one and looking elite the next year, I cannot go that far. But I will agree with, the fatal flaw. I would say the one fatal flaw, quote unquote, in this team is the secondary. And I think that that's just a young secondary that's continuing to figure things out. And I think that's being nitpicky. I think that, it's easy to overlook maybe some of the fatal flaws of the Kansas City Chiefs because, the Chiefs, they'll figure things out. But no, that is a flawed football team. This Eagles team, you got to really kind of peek behind the curtain and peel back a couple of layers in order to find something that is less than elite.
You're right. They have more to accomplish. I'm just riding the beast like it's the never-ending story. I'm riding to the end of this thing. I'm on it. I'm on the beast, and I'm just deciding that this is where it's going to go. I'm ahead
You ride
of it.
that beast, Fitzy.
There we go. I'm riding the never-ending story. The other never-ending story is the never-ending story of suck that comes from another team in the NFC East, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys, who got absolutely destroyed yesterday by the Chicago Bears. I mean, absolutely just eaten alive by the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson came in and said, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, and mocked the Cowboys along the way. Now, CeeDee Lamb was lost in this game due to injury. We'll keep you updated on whatever we can find out for that. It has a particular consequence the way this offense runs. But no matter what the offense was doing, the Bears put up 31 points against one of the most undisciplined defenses you can imagine. Flea flickers, runs. At one point, the Cowboys were run on 11 straight plays. On the opening drive of the second half, 11 straight runs on a 19-play drive. Like, the Bears just came out and just slapped the Cowboys around. And this is one of those moments, like, we're looking at this Cowboys defense. Like, how do we get here, Caroline? Is this a bottom 3 defense in the NFL at this point?
Yes. Literally, statistically, it is a bottom 3 defense in the NFL. I mean, the Cowboys are bottom 3 in yards given up per game. The Cowboys are bottom 5 in points given up per game. And in 2 consecutive weeks, we have seen opposing quarterbacks go up against this Cowboys defense and look like a freaking league MVP. 2 quarterbacks that we're not really sure how good they are at this point in their respective careers. Opposite ends of their careers in Russell Wilson last week and then Caleb Williams this week. But Caleb Williams has looked rocky. And then now all of a sudden we see him put up 31 points against the Cowboys. Russell Wilson was washed. And I think after watching him last night, we can agree he's washed, but put up 400 plus yards at the game of his career against this Cowboys defense. So yes, bottom 3 defense in the league, I would agree. But just look at this thing of beauty, Fitz. 19 plays, 76 yards, 9 minutes and 54 seconds off the clock on that touchdown drive. That is a thing of absolute, pure, unadulterated, old school football beauty that the Bears did yesterday in the third quarter.
It was absolutely beautiful. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I had too many Wheaties this morning. I have takes for days. Here's the thing. I watched that defense yesterday and I said, I get it. I get why Micah's not there. It's the first time I've looked at it and said, I get it, because I think this defense is so ass, and they knew it, that they knew that there was literally nothing that was going to save them this year. So why spend the money knowing that you just don't have the horses to put up a fight even with Micah? Let me be clear. This defense was terrible. I don't think Micah would have made a difference on this. And I'll go back to something I heard Dan Orlovsky say this morning. Dan Orlovsky said earlier today, I watched the Bears make more mistakes in zone coverage in this game defensively than most teams make in a season. So think about that. You can have Micah Parsons back there. You can have Superman back there. You can put everybody back there you want. If the back end of your defense doesn't know where the hell they're supposed to go in a zone defense that you're running a bunch of, Micah ain't going to save you. So if you're the Cowboys and you look around, look, I understand getting rid of great players never feels good. And I understand that Micah's going to come into the revenge game and we're all going to obsess over this. I just think the real part of this that we're forgetting is that Micah's going to go thrive with the Packers. But I don't believe that this Cowboys defense with Micah would even be halfway up the league. They're not a top half of the league defense because they are so bad at playing defense and they are being so poorly coached and so poorly coordinated. There is no one player in the NFL that would make this defense better, including Micah Parsons. So at some point you throw up your hands and you say, we got to rebuild the whole damn thing.
I think you're giving Jerry Jones way too much credit, and I don't think
fair.
you're
That
giving
is
Micah
fair.
Parsons enough. Like, I don't think that Jerry Jones looked at this defense and thought, was playing chess and not checkers. I think that Jerry Jones just got his feelings hurt in these negotiations with Micah Parsons. I don't think you're giving Micah Parsons enough credit because I do think this defense would be better if he was part of it. This defense wouldn't be bottom 3 in the league. Would it be top half? No. Like, there's only so much that Micah Parsons can do. But he does make a difference. My only pushback to that point, though, would be if the Cowboys evaluated this defense and said, man, we are terrible. The only thing we can do is trade Micah Parsons. Well, that's just bad management. If you're going to suck on defense, you're going to say, okay, we're going to be bad defensively. And we're okay with trading away Micah Parsons, one of the best defensive, if not the best defensive players in the National Football League, because we believe that we are so far gone. We are beyond help that even Micah Parsons could give us. Don't you just trade everybody? You're okay with sucking defensively, but you're going to hold on to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb after you paid all of them all of that money?
Well, yeah, because you guys
if you're going to suck if you're going to suck defensively,
points.
Just suck. You may as well just suck. You may as well just trade everybody.
I do think that there is
of paying all those players offensively all that money if you know that you're just going to take steps backwards defensively.
I think honest to God, look, you're right. Jerry is not football savvy enough at this point in his career, my belief, to be sitting there and seeing chess and checkers. Like, he's just out here letting pride be the downfall of man. I do believe that. But I also do see logic to, hey, we suck on this side of the ball. Like, in a perfect offseason, if you are a bad football team, if you have the best offseason we've ever seen in the history of offseasons, you might get 3 impact starters out of free agency. You might. And you might get 3 impact starters. You might out of the draft. That's a Hall of Fame. Like, if you walk out of an offseason with 6 new starters, that is a Hall of Fame offseason. So you cannot overhaul a team in 1 year. You can start to get lucky and you can find some pieces and some things can grow. But you can't truly overhaul the foundation of something in 1 season. That's my belief. If you get rid of the offense, well, now you're overhauling the whole thing. So you look at it and say, well, the defense sucks, but we're going to win some shootouts, which is what I think. By the way, I said it last week. I'll say it. I don't think the Cowboys season's over. Their defense sucks. Yes. And if CeeDee Lamb is hurt, it's going to be really difficult for them to generate points. But that offense should, if they're healthy, still be able to score on a lot of people. I still think Dak can will this team into, they're going to be in it more Sundays than they're not. So I don't think all hope is lost for the Cowboys. I just think that even if Micah was on there, you know what he'd be? He'd be a great player on a terrible defense. Micah Parsons would be stuck. Micah would basically be Max Crosby, an elite player that's just running after ghosts on a defense that is absolute hot garbage, because there's nothing I trust about the coaching, the coordinating, the players, the ability to actually run in this defense. The Cowboys have shown nothing on the defensive side of the ball to get any benefit of the doubt. So all they would be is 10 guys that suck and Micah Parsons if they had Micah.
So do we agree? And also, the Cowboys could have done more in free agency to bolster up that defense. Free agency is an option. I don't know if that's anything that anyone in Dallas knows about, because they have not done enough in free agency. But do we agree this was more about a Cowboys defense than it was the Bears offense clicking and finding something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you said it perfectly early, Carrie. Like,
yeah.
Russ, where was Russ? Like, Russ suddenly had it all figured out. Russ had it suddenly all figured out. Now he doesn't have it figured out. You know who also doesn't have everything figured out? The Packers. But you would have had the Packers figured out if you'd have been hanging out with us on Friday, because, I don't know, victory lap time. The Browns upset the Packers. We'll tell you about it next on Yahoo Sports Daily. you have a Cleveland team that, they've got a defense that's plucky. I'm saying it condescendingly but real. They got a defense that has some stars on it. It's plucky, but they got Joe Flacco. And they got an offense that nobody really believes in, and nobody's scared of the Cleveland Browns. That's exactly why I'm scared of this game. Human nature is still human nature. You got a Packers team that's come off of 2 big wins, and they got another big matchup coming in about a week. Oh, this feels like the ultimate trap game, and that makes it thirst trap third. Plus, it's a big point spread on that. -8. Like, I'm going out there. Like, I'm laying it on the line for this one. Woo! If you listen to this show on Thursdays, we give you a thirst trap Thursday game every week. So far, we've given you one each
go,
week.
Fitzy.
The Browns 13-10 win over the Packers. Biggest upset of the young NFL season. Caroline Fenton got it first week. I got it second week. I'm telling you, all the more reason you should be hanging out with us on Thursdays. Also because we Photoshop coaches onto thirst trap bodies. So you would have gotten to see LaFleur with abs. I mean, I'm just saying LaFleur with abs, and then also you get this upset. But Caroline, I listened back to that. The analysis was pretty spot on. Look, that defense was plucky. Condescending or not, that defense was plucky. The Packers couldn't get anything going, and they felt out of sync. They felt out of whack from the beginning of that football game. It truly felt like a trap game. Congratulations to the Browns, but, man, if you're the Packers, you can't let that happen.
Bravo to you, Fitz. First of all, fantastic call. As a show, we are batting 1,000 in our thirst traps. I called Georgia Tech upsetting Clemson last week. Cha-ching, book it. Fitz called this one, cha-ching, happy dance, book it, crushing it, killing it, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh.
Okay,
but it is so true. Okay, yeah, victory lap done. The Packers have the Cowboys next week. So we kind of thought, okay, are they going to look ahead to the Cowboys? But from what we saw through 2 weeks from the Packers, they're like, gosh, even if this team is in fact looking ahead to the Cowboys, I just feel like the Packers have been playing at such a high level that even they couldn't get caught by this Browns team that has been struggling. But I think that's a harrowing reminder of 2 things. Anything can happen in the National Football League, and the Browns defense is legit. They went out there and they stole a game that they had no business winning against a team that looked like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the National Football League. I think the second thing is sometimes 2 weeks can be a fallacy, and it is a reminder that maybe the Packers didn't deserve that level of trust that we gave them through 2 weeks. That does not mean that I do not think that they have the makings of being an elite football team, because I do. We saw it through 2 weeks, 2 dominant victories over playoff teams last year in the Lions and the Commanders. That they have, the addition of Micah Parsons makes this defense that much more lethal, that Jordan Love at times can play like a really high-level quarterback. But we saw yesterday, that wasn't good. They were not good offensively. I think there were play calling questions, that final interception of the game that really kind of handed it to the Browns. You're throwing it on 3rd and 3. Why? You're up. There's 3.5 minutes left. Run the clock out. Run the football. It's 3rd and 3, and Josh Jacobs can play like a maniac. Run the football. And then also Jordan Love was just overthrowing receivers, not hitting receivers. Offensively, they just looked like a bunch of individual pieces and not one cohesive unit, Fitzy.
Yeah, and when that happens, we always want to have a blame pie. Pie sucks, but blame pie is great. When we want to have a blame pie and figure out who
pie
gets
does
the blame,
kind of suck.
It's trash. Pie is trash. That's what. And don't at me and tell me I haven't had good pie. It's just pie is trash. But the bigger takeaway for me here is that when we have that blame pie, the biggest slice of it goes to LaFleur, because if your team comes out flat, if your entire organization just feels like they're meh from the kickoff, if the energy isn't right, if everything's a little out of sync and everything's a little out of whack, if it's not 1 person, 2 persons, 3 persons, if it's 10 people that are part of the problem, then it's a coaching fault. Like, there is some level of part of a coach's job, especially a head coach, because head coaches deal so little with X's and O's, and if they do, then there's still like a portion of their job that at the end of the day, it's their job to make sure everybody's locked in, everybody's hyped up, everybody's ready to play, everybody's got the right focus. It's about finding the right temperament of your team, the pulse of the team, something that I think LaFleur is really good at. This Sunday, he wasn't. And we have to, at some point, when we look around, we blame quarterbacks when they have bad days, and that doesn't mean that the quarterback suddenly sucks. I think it's okay to blame coaches when they have a bad day, and it doesn't mean a coach suddenly sucks. I think LaFleur has proven himself to be one of the better head coaches in the NFL, absolutely. But on this particular Sunday, he didn't have his team ready to play. He didn't have his team locked in. He didn't have his team focused up. That's on LaFleur.
It's fair. And LaFleur does deserve a decent bit of the blame. I think quarterback and coach, I've said it before, I will say it a million times again, that they will get all of the blame, even when it's not fair, and they will get all of the credit, even when it's not fair as well. But I think Jordan Love has to get a big portion of this as well. Jordan Love is, I think, the reason why, or one of the reasons why, probably the biggest reason why, I can't fully trust this Packers team. It has become so easy to trust the Chargers because of the level of play that we've gotten from Justin Herbert. I trust the Bills because of Josh Allen. I trust the Ravens, at least in the regular season. Sorry, Ravens fans, because of Lamar Jackson. Even when the Chiefs are 1-2 and they've looked kind of doo-doo, why do we trust them? Because of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and of course the coaching is part of this. But there are certain quarterbacks that have earned a benefit of the doubt, certain quarterbacks that have earned a level of trust from all of us as football fans. Because there are certain quarterbacks that have shown up in clutch moments, that have shown up that they're not going to be the reason why their respective teams lose. And more often than not, they are the reason why their team wins. Jordan Love has not shown that. Jordan Love has been too inconsistent. Jordan Love, like we saw against the Commanders, could cook. My goodness, Jordan Love can look great even when he loses some of his top targets. But then we see a game like we saw yesterday. And look, that's credit to the Browns defense and Myles Garrett. I mean, this unit is probably not talked about enough. The Browns defense gets credit. The Browns as a team, no, they get no credit. But the Browns defense is good. But Jordan Love is going to have to play against a lot of good defenses on a path to a Super Bowl, which is, I think, quickly becoming the expectation in Green Bay. You cannot get that kind of play from Jordan Love and win a Super Bowl.
I think that's the biggest part of it is the expectation. Like, things have changed in Green Bay this year because we saw enough to turn around and say, hey, this team is one of the best in the league. So now weeks like this become inexcusable. Expectation is part of why we judge this team differently right now. Like you mentioned, trust. Well, trust is earned in sports, and it's earned, I think, particularly through consistency. We haven't seen enough consistent greatness from Green Bay to really give them the trust that they want in these situations, and they are being held to a different standard because the standard right now in Green Bay is not win a division. The standard in this Green Bay team is good enough to win a Super Bowl. And my God, have we not learned at this point that when you were in that window, you have to maximize it because that window is so short? I do want to push back on one thing you said. You said we don't give the Browns defense enough credit. Miss me with that. Browns fans everywhere, miss me with you're not getting enough credit. I don't want to hear it because you are. Every single time we talk about the Cleveland Browns, it's always their defense is so good, but Joe Flacco sucks.
It is.
Well, that's what we saw.
And he does.
Like, they're getting sufficient credit. Their defense is so good, and Joe Flacco sucks. Like, that's a fair analysis. Like, guess what? A fair analysis of the Cleveland Browns is you have an elite defense that is going to put you in games, and it's going to make you feel for at least a half every Sunday like you belong. And at some point, because your offense can't generate anything more Sundays than not, you're going to be in a pickle. You're going to be in a pickle because you don't have a quarterback answer. And you're in a pickle in part because you don't have any proof that the quarterbacks that aren't playing are a better answer. And the coaches don't seem to believe that they're ready. So the fair, honest, middle of the road, throw my fan hat away, I do not give a damn about your feelings analysis of the Cleveland Browns is you've got a great defense and a bad offense, and you're going to win some games you shouldn't, and you're going to lose some games you shouldn't, and you're going to be pissed off most Sundays because you're going to say, how are we wasting this defense? That's kind of what we say about the Browns. I think it's accurate. I think it's fair.
But I don't think we talk about it like that. I don't. When we talk about the Browns, we talk about the Browns. That team stinks. Like, that's the reason why we talked about them in our thirst trap. Because it was a trap game. Because I don't think we give the Browns enough credit. Because the Browns defense just went out there and stole a game against the hottest team in the league. I didn't think that this team was capable of that. And the defense basically single-handedly did that. In a game where Joe Flacco was stinky. The defense won that game.
You're right. And here's the thing. Two things can be true. That defense is elite, and the Browns still aren't going to be a team that scares most teams most Sundays. All right. The Browns weren't the only defense that had a massive, massive day. There was a clinic put on, a historic clinic from the Vikings, and particularly one guy. We'll tell you about it next. Isaiah Rodgers is the first player in NFL history with a pick six, a fumble return for a touchdown, and 2 forced fumbles in a single game. That's what you call having a Sunday. And boy, by God, did he have one. In fact, if you don't believe him, you can also check with Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Focus gave him the coveted highest score. I guess he's the highest Pro Football Focus score that you could ever have in history. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz on Yahoo Sports Daily, as he puts up a perfect 99.9. I have such an issue with this. How can a 99 Pro Football Focus, like, what are we doing? A perfect 10 is a perfect. There's a reason the phrase perfect 10 exists. Could you imagine if Mary Lou Retton in the Olympics comes flying through, lands, and then they're like, she gets a perfect 9.9? No, what are we doing, PFF?
Isaiah Rodgers wishes he was Mary Lou Retton.
Who doesn't wish they were Mary Lou Retton? 99.9? Make it 100. How can a perfect score be a 9? Like, we need to have Pro Football Focus on this show to justify why a perfect score would be anything less than 100. Isaiah Rodgers, by the way, deserves that. Cincy has got to be at this point just recoiling after watching I don't know what was worse. Adam Schefter try and put out bad stats about Jake Browning. I kept calling him Jack, or Jake Browning's actual performance. The Bengals were just horrific yesterday, and the Vikings, you say play with their food. The Vikings were like a lion playing with the little thing it was about to eat. It was just, Browning was awful. The Vikings toyed them 48-10, and the score wasn't even indicative of how bad it was.
I don't know if Joe Burrow's ever felt, vulnerable about his job security. He sure as heck isn't after last night or yesterday. Ouch. Ew. Gross. Bad day from Jake Browning. I mean, no disrespect to Isaiah Rodgers in the slightest, because he had himself a game yesterday, a career kind of game, a game that he will get to tell his kids and his grandchildren about for the rest of time. But like, how many average fans would be able to pick Isaiah Rodgers out of a lineup before yesterday? That was Jake Browning, frankly. Like, that was how bad Jake Browning was yesterday. Again, no disrespect to Isaiah Rodgers. I think yesterday was all I really needed to see to say, okay, if the Bengals truly want to be a competitor, if they want to keep their heads above water until Joe Burrow comes back from the turf toe surgery, you have to go find a better option at quarterback. You do. And look, I said going into this game that Jake Browning probably is a higher quality backup. And is Jake Browning significantly better than, other options that you might have out there in the quarterback market? No. But maybe he can be there to, pick up the pieces. I think we're seeing the gap between Joe Burrow and Jake Browning, obviously, is incredibly wide. And while Jake Browning can maybe win you a game or two here and there, he cannot keep your head above water for the greater part of 3 months. So I think that now is the time. If it's Kirk Cousins, if it's Jameis Winston, any of these other more reliable veterans that won't turn the ball over like the clip that Jake Browning did yesterday. I mean, Jake Browning's stat line yesterday, 19 of 27, 140 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and they added on a couple more turnovers on that. Like, I think that Jameis and Kirk Cousins can win you games and be much cleaner than what we saw from Jake Browning yesterday. I know it was one game. I get it. But if that's what we have, that's the peek behind the curtain of the 2025 iteration of Jake Browning, I can't live through 3 more months of this, Fitzy. And neither can the Bengals. Neither should the Bengals.
One of my favorite isms from my mom was people in hell want ice water. The Bengals organization wants a different quarterback. So, I strongly believe that Jameis Winston is not available by trade. And I strongly believe that Jameis Winston will not be available by trade. And I believe yesterday was a perfect indication of why there is nothing anyone can or will offer for Kirk Cousins that gets him out of Atlanta. I think you're right. They need a better option. But where they needed a better option was this summer when they were figuring out what to do. And Jake Browning is somebody that's been in this system for a minute. He's had a little bit of success. They were obviously comfortable with him. Maybe this was a 1-week aberration. But at this point, just because they absolutely want a different quarterback, I don't think that they have a different quarterback available. I think, unfortunately, Bengals fans, I'm just here, no emotion to it. I'm just here to be a beacon of truth on this Monday. I would just tell you, you're screwed. There's the beacon of truth. Let's keep the beacon of truth going in the AFC North. Pittsburgh gets a road win, all right, over the Patriots, and this was an ugly football game. So now we've got Pittsburgh sitting at 2-1. They get the ugly win over to New England. Like, where are you on the Steelers?
Congratulations. You got an ugly win over a second-year quarterback and a head coach in his first year in New England. Congratulations. Like, do you want a cookie? Do you want to take a bow, Pittsburgh? This is the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers. We don't get to throw victory parades for wins over the Patriots. You got to win. You do what you're supposed to do. Win. Ugly wins in the NFL count the exact same as dominant wins in the NFL. There are no extra points for a little razzle dazzle and a little pizzazz. So you did what you needed to do. But also, like, doesn't this Steelers team have higher expectations than beating the Patriots? No disrespect to the Patriots.
Hold on. Let me go full disrespect. Let me go full disrespect to the Patriots here, because I live in New England Patriot country. I have no choice. I love watching the games out on Sundays because it's a good way to see everything at once. Patriots are on everywhere. The audio's on everywhere. I cannot escape the New England Patriots. I watched my beloved Raiders take on the Patriots week 1, and when they won that game, I said at the time, to be very consistent, who cares? You beat the Patriots. The Patriots are not a good football team. What have we seen since then? The Raiders haven't looked particularly good, even though some people thought maybe week 1 was a sign of something. I will take that same truth with the Steelers. They struggled in so many ways against what I think is a pretty pathetic New England Patriots team this year. The Patriots over the course of the year will get better under Mike Vrabel. That's the way this process is going to work. Drake May is going to get better when he has a better understanding of Josh McDaniels' offense, which is why I've been consistent also in saying the best time to play the Patriots is early in the year. But think about how we came into this year. I came into this year expecting the Steelers to go on a run early because their schedule looks easy early, and then when they hit the meat of it, the wheels fall off. What have we seen instead? Pittsburgh has struggled this is why we cannot just look at the standings as some indication of something. Like, Aaron Rodgers had a nice throw in that game, and then Aaron Rodgers had an overall game. The Steelers on offense look in every possible way. Like, if we're being honest about the Steelers, the best case set right now is that they look mid. That's it. And I walked away from this win saying, damn, I had better expectations. I thought the Steelers were better than struggling to beat the Patriots. They should have gone in and handled New England. And at times, their defensive line certainly handled Drake May. Drake May was running for his life throughout the course of this thing. And it was still a game that came down to the fourth quarter. Stupid mistakes are really the reason that the Patriots lost this football game. And again, I will double down on it. The Patriots stink. So to me, the Steelers getting this win, I got to go to the eye test and say, I don't really care. You did not look great. You won by 1 score on a game where the Patriots, as you see there, had 5 turnovers. Caroline, I am less confident today in the Pittsburgh Steelers than I was 5 days ago because of the way they looked in that win.
I think it's fair. But I don't think, if we want to go back to the binary results conversation that we had about Aaron Rodgers last week when he was talking to the media and he said, I don't get so caught up in the binary results that we're so obsessed with in football, meaning wins and losses. Let's look outside of the binary result because, again, you won, right? I hear Steelers fans saying, why are you so mad? We won the football game. I say the Patriots lost that game more than the Steelers won it. So if we want to talk about, stepping outside of binary results, the Steelers did not play winning football. The Patriots just played losing football. So if we want to talk about the Steelers and their expectations and what they expected when they brought in Aaron Rodgers and they did all that shuffling in free agency, I didn't think it was very smart shuffling, but it was shuffling nonetheless. The Steelers went into the season saying, we're a playoff team. Not only do we want to be a playoff team, we want to win a playoff game. It's about time. We're overdue. That didn't look like a team that could win a playoff game.
No, the fan base can't keep telling me that they want to see Tomlin win playoff games and then be okay with that sort of a regular season when the two things do not stack up. All right, so much more football to get into, including what has to happen to change in Houston. We thought they were going to be great. Yet again, they aren't. We'll go through some of the sea of suck when we come back on Yahoo Sports Daily. Hour number 2 of Yahoo Sports Daily is underway. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We got Ryder Cup action to get into. We got NFL action to get into. We got so much to do, but we will start this hour as we start every single hour, my friend. 3 points. What is on your mind?
Yes. Some news in the WNBA. Asia Wilson is your 2025 WNBA MVP, her 4th all-time in her career. And those that have been paying attention to the Las Vegas Aces over the last month and some change should not be surprised by this award in the slightest. The Las Vegas Aces went on a 17-game winning streak and led mostly by Asia Wilson. It felt like a double day for Asia Wilson was just slight work. Anything less than 30 points and 15 rebounds felt like a pedestrian day for Asia Wilson, which is crazy to say, but that was the standard that she set, and that is what she created for herself, that kind of expectation. And I think we need to start talking about Asia Wilson not only on the Mount Rushmore of WNBA players, because that is absolutely squarely where she belongs as a 2-time champion and a 4-time league MVP, the first player to ever do that. She's up there with Maya Moore and Diana Taurasi and Candace Parker, the greats. We also need to talk about Asia Wilson and what she is right now. She's the best player in the WNBA. Because last night, Caitlin Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, took down the Las Vegas Aces without Caitlin Clark. Now, I understand that if you're going to be the best player in the league, you need to be winning some of these playoff games. I totally understand. But Asia Wilson's team would not be in the position that they are in right now without Asia Wilson. All the respect in the world to Nafisa Collier, to Caitlin Clark, to Paige Beckers, all of these other outstanding players that we have the privilege of watching in the W. But Asia Wilson does for her team what no other player in the WNBA does for theirs, and that is elevate them to a completely different standard and to a completely different level. Asia Wilson is playing out of her mind, and we can see it in the postseason. So check it out. WNBA playoffs happening right now. Hoops 360 keeps you up to date with all the great stuff. Check it out.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark is the face of the league, but you're right. Asia, the best player. I will remind everybody, Asia just turned 29. Caitlin is 23. So for Caitlin to reach the accolades that Asia has reached over the next 6 years, she would have to win 4 MVPs and 2 titles. I'm just saying that's how much Asia has accomplished. Let's put some respect on her name. All right, I'll get you to my first point of the hour, and that comes in the form of Belichick. Right, look, okay, while you weren't paying any attention because none of us should be, we saw this incredible, just absolute troll job from UCF, letting us know that they dominated North Carolina, and the final score on this 34-9. I'm not sure that that was even indicative of how bad this game got. Belichick has absolutely lost any modicum of hope for the North Carolina football team at this point. But even more on top of that, I'm just wondering, weren't we supposed to get a documentary? Isn't that happening? Like, last I checked, weren't we all going to be watching this behind the scenes? What we've seen so far has become an abject disaster. Let's not mince words here. North Carolina is not getting any result from Bill Belichick that they couldn't have gotten from any other coach not named Bill Belichick. They've beaten some bad football teams along the way, and they're losing to everybody that's even mid along the way. So what are we actually talking about here? We're talking about Bill Belichick on the sidelines absolutely just making a joke of the UNC football program. There is no easy comeback from this, and I'm just curious, as Pablo points out, shouldn't we see episode 1 soon? I'd love to see behind the curtain of what's actually happening, given how bad this program is playing, how poorly run everything looks, and the fact that they simply don't have the talent they need. Wasn't having Bill on the sidelines supposed to be enough to suddenly restock your roster with people everywhere that wanted the opportunity to learn how to be a pro? Now you turn around and say, well, look at all the transfers and they need more talent and it's a long process and this isn't going to happen overnight. Okay, which one is it? And if you're going to chronicle it on a documentary and you're going to tell us about it all summer, show it to us now when the result isn't what you thought it would be. Because let's be real. We pre-programmed much of the TV expectations for North Carolina this year. They're going to be on TV over and over and over again. And what does that mean? That means you're going to watch Belichick get his ass kicked on the sideline over and over and over again. And we're not going to hear any real explanation, and we're not going to have a lot of hope. We're just going to sit here and watch it. By the end of the year, we're all going to wish we didn't have to. Thankfully, maybe the documentary won't come out. Let's get back to the NFL as we get back to our top point. And this is one of my favorite things. You know I love this phrase, Caroline Fenton. See you suck. The sea of suck is where you live when you're just perennially bad. Let me be clear for everybody that wants to tweet me every time I have a take about their favorite football team to remind me that my beloved Raiders suck. You are correct. My beloved Raiders live in the sea of suck. So we're going to look at some of the teams that are in the sea of suck and figure out what needs to change. We'll start with the Tennessee Titans. They got absolutely destroyed by the Colts, something we saw coming, but I don't know, Caroline. This one felt different. They weren't really in this game. Brian Callahan, the head coach, took forever to come to the podium afterwards. There was speculation. In my mind, I think there's only one change that makes sense, and it is to fire your coach. We do not root for coaches to get fired. We simply analyze whether or not they should be. To me, I cannot imagine a world where the Titans are better by having Callahan on their sideline every week because it's gotten too loud.
It's so bad. And look, Cam Ward is a young rookie quarterback still trying to figure things out. No, Brian Callahan was not the one that threw a pick six right to the Indianapolis Colts defense to open up that game. Cam Ward did. But what Brian Callahan did do was waste a timeout and get a delay of game all to miss a field goal before half. That was truly inexcusable. And they were even talking about that on the broadcast, how dumbfounded they were that it took an Indianapolis timeout, a Titans timeout, and a delay of game just to miss a 62-yarder. Brian Callahan, as a tactician, is not good. And we've seen that through 3 games. The way that he has, kind of tried to rebuild this program, it's not very good because he took over a dumpster fire. I will give Brian Callahan credit that he took over an absolute dumpster fire, but he's poured gasoline on that dumpster fire. There is no small little glimmer of hope that Tennessee Titans fans have to hold on to. Cam Ward, yes, absolutely. But that roster stinks. They don't play like a very energized football team. And Cam Ward doesn't look like he's getting better week over week. There's even a quote from Michael Pittman that was circulating throughout Twitter last night. Michael Pittman talked about during warmups, they were kind of, the Colts were jumping around, getting hyped up, doing what you do before a football game. He said the Titans weren't doing any of that. You can see it right there. He said we saw it in the pregame intros. They looked sluggish. They were kind of just walking around. Nobody was bouncing around. Right then and there, we all sat there and they were like, they don't want to play today. Maybe there's, that's easy to say post game after a big win. Maybe we don't want to put so much weight into what Michael Pittman is saying there. But I don't think that he's wrong, Fitz, because yesterday I didn't see a Tennessee Titans team that looked energized, that came out that they wanted to prove a point, that wanted to undo the narrative that had been created about them going into the season and through the first 2 weeks. That was a lifeless football team, a lackluster football team, and it starts at the top.
It was a stadium that was half full also, and it's a stadium that honored our buddy Mike Keith, who's been the voice of the Tennessee Titans for many years before the game. And when Amy Adams Strunk was introduced as part of that, the owner of the Titans, she was mercilessly booed all the way through that entire process. When an owner stands on the field of the team that she plays for and that she owns, that plays for her in a stadium that is half full and gets booed off the field, there's ramifications. I just think Callahan at this point is dead man walking. Let's take a look at the next team in this sea of suck. I'm surprised they're here. They're not usually in this one. They usually go to the country club. They're usually hanging at the nice pool. Now they're in the sea of suck. It's the Houston Texans. They are winless. They lose to the Jags. What needs to change in your mind for the Houston Texans?
The offensive coordinator. I mean, I keep trying to go back to the 2023 version of the Houston Texans, and I have to ask myself, what happened? What happened to CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud, who looked like the most electric young quarterback in the league. The Texans were the hottest team in the NFL. And then, yes, okay, last year you could say, well, there were a bunch of injuries, and that was the reason why they kind of took a step back, and CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump. It's okay, it happens. I expected much more going into this season, but the Texans have been absolutely brutal offensively. They have a bottom 5 offense in the NFL. They've scored the fewest points in the league. They're averaging 12 points a game. So I look at their offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, and I wonder what is going on with this team. You move on from Bobby Slowick, Nick Caley comes in, and they've taken steps back from last season, a year that they already took steps back from 2023. There are way too many pieces, way too much talent on this Texans team, offensively and defensively, to be as bad, frankly, as they've been. Where is 2023 CJ Stroud? He has to be in there somewhere, right? Surely that wasn't a fluke.
That's why, for me, by the way, this Jags-Texans game was like a social media lunch, like brunch hotspot. Like the pictures look great, but the actual product sucks. Like this game was just too overhyped franchises at this point. But look, for me, the change is Nick Caserio, the GM. Get rid of the guy that's deciding what's going to be around CJ Stroud. I think Caserio got lucky on the draft. I think he got lucky on the coach hiring. They've done a few things here and there that are worth it, but if you cannot identify the offensive line to protect your quarterback and make that team better, if you cannot do that, then fire him and bring in somebody that actually can. So I would say that he's what needs to change for that. What about the Saints? The Saints organization is just entirely. I could not believe that we were watching an NFL game when the Seahawks were just absolutely destroying the Saints. And the question is, what needs to change? My first answer, Caroline, not to be too, hard on Saints fans here, is everything, the entire roster. Like, I genuinely believe that right now is rock bottom for the Saints. The Saints have a shot this year at being a winless football team. They have a shot at 0-17. They're that bad week in, week out. They'll beat somebody along the way because somebody will oversleep a Sunday and not show up for the game. I think the Saints are the worst team in the league, and I don't think that there's one thing that can fix them. I don't think there's one offseason that can fix them. I think you have to rip this thing all the way down to its studs and rebuild it piece by piece in a process that will take years to get through the damage this year's team will do.
The only thing that can help the New Orleans Saints is a prayer. Frankly, like that is it. And just, full disclosure for everybody watching and listening, I'm a Saints fan. I started talking about the draft in August because I just wanted to fast forward to April and hope that the Saints could get in on Arch Mania and take him with the number 1 overall pick. Now Arch Manning doesn't even look really that good. So there's no hope left for Saints fans. That I think Saints fans knew this season was going to be rough. Saints fans knew the season was going to be bad. That became very, very clear when the 2 quarterback options were Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner and whatever other random quarterback they could scrape off the bottom of the barrel there. Tyler Shuck. I think Saints fans knew this season was going to be bad. So at least this was the expectation was bad. But what I think can help this team right now, though, I don't think they need to move on from Kellen Moore because I think Kellen Moore is a very smart football coach. But that is an inevitable leap when you go from coordinator to head coach. You can be the smartest X's and O's offensive play caller out there, but it takes time to learn how to be a head coach, getting feel for the game. Kellen Moore yesterday kicked a field goal from the 6-yard line, down 38-3. He also missed a field goal, down 35-3. Like, why is Kellen Moore attempting field goals down 35 points? Like, well, you're not just gonna go for it? Yeah, what is the harm in that? You're at the 6-yard line. Just go for it. Toss it up and hope that prayer might reach somebody. That is just kind of the head coach feel that I feel like Kellen Moore is missing. He also had some flubs not calling timeouts in the Saints' first couple of games. So I think Kellen Moore needs to learn how to be a better tactician. That doesn't change the quarterback. That doesn't change the lack of talent that the Saints have on this roster. But it would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't know the easy fix. And my fear is that the reason I didn't want Kellen Moore to take this job in the first place was it doesn't feel like there's an easy solution. And to your point, I hate to tell teams that stink right now, it does not look like the quarterback class that we thought was going to be there is going to be there. So if your answer is, well, we stink, but we're going to get a quarterback, or we'll get a huge trade for a quarterback, I don't know that is there. We'll keep breaking it down, but we got some Ryder Cup to get into. That's right. It is a wild week in sports. The Ryder Cup right around the corner. Jay Busbee going to hang out with us. We will get his thoughts on it coming up next. Lady Liberty, is Beth Page ready? That's right, the Ryder Cup taking place out in Long Island. Time to get us ready for the Ryder Cup. I love that. That is hysterical, by the way. With our own Jay Busbee going to get us caught up and ready for it. Jay, appreciate your time this morning as we get ready for a big week. So let's just start there. For anybody that's just casual, that's just tuning in and trying to figure out why this is a big deal, what makes the Ryder Cup specifically so special?
The Ryder Cup is kind of golf's equivalent of an SEC tailgate. I mean, it is wild, it is raucous. Every single thing that you think about golf, about being too uptight, about having bad uniforms, about being dorky, the Ryder Cup blows that all out of the water. What it is, 12 players from the United States playing the 12 best players from Europe in a series of matches. Some of them are pairs, some of them are head-to-head, goes over the course of 3 days from Friday to Sunday, and it is the most raucous, ridiculous environment you will see in golf. For all the calm and pleasant nature of Augusta National, this is just like WrestleMania with fans screaming at players, players screaming at fans, beer everywhere. It's seriously, I'm glad we don't do it every weekend because I don't think that most golf courses can handle it. But once every 2 years, it is absolutely an exceptional event.
I always tell people who aren't into golf, Ryder Cup and Waste Management Open. Those are made for you, for the two events made for the non-golf fans out there. But it's been 2 years since the U.S. lost in Rome. But since then, the last 2 years, we've seen Scottie Scheffler emerge as one of the best, if not the best players in the world. What does this Ryder Cup mean for Scottie Scheffler?
Yeah, it's a chance for him to really establish himself as one of the greats of all time. I mean, the strange thing about the Ryder Cup is that it's a different style of golf. It's match play where you're playing hole by hole rather than stroke play, where you total up all of your scores over the course of an entire round. So it's a little bit of a different style of playing. But if Scottie can demonstrate his mastery of this form, the way that he's demonstrated the mastery of every single other kind of golf up to this point, that's when he starts vaulting out of the best of his generation, and that's when he starts moving up into the all-time legendary golfer status. And I think that having a big Ryder Cup, having a big Ryder Cup win could go a long way toward that.
All right, so take Scottie out of the equation. Give me another American golfer that everybody should have their eyes on that they need to come up big for this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys here that may not be as well known because they've done things exceptionally well on a kind of out of the blue, like J.J. Spawn, who came out of nowhere to win the U.S. Open, but has actually been playing some surprisingly good golf. Guys like Russell Henley and Harris English. But the one that you really want to pay attention to is Justin Thomas. He was a captain's pick, which means that the captain he didn't play his way in on his own merits. The captain decided that he needed him for a locker room presence. Justin Thomas is the kind of guy that can absolutely fire up a crowd. He's one of the guys that's been shotgunning beers at the first tee with fans when he's not playing. So if he is feeling good, then things are looking really good for the U.S. team. If he gets to feeling bad, he can kind of drag the team down with him. But he's kind of the fulcrum. He's the locker room guy. He's the locker room presence that you want to have on the team. And so if JT is feeling good, it's going to be good times for the U.S.
You had me at shotgunning beers. I mean, that's all you needed to say, and I was
suddenly
okay.
Dude, it was ridiculous. He stood there in front of this entire arena and he starts shotgunning beers while his teammates are playing. I mean, it's just like, again, all of the cliches, which are mostly true about golfers, this event kind of blows them out of the water.
So what kind of fireworks could we get between Rory and Bryson? Maybe personality fireworks, just fireworks in general.
I mean, I'm hoping for a wrestling match right there on the 18th green. I mean, that would be tremendous. But I would take Bryson in that one, by the way. Rory, better golfer. Bryson, better wrestler. That's the thing. That's what makes it so interesting is Rory is the kind of player who's one of the most technically accomplished players in the entire sport, in the history of the sport. But Bryson, he's a social media hurricane, and his game is kind of finally matching up to his mouth, which is really impressive. I still think that Rory is the better player from tee to green and on the green, but Bryson is really coming on strong. And Bryson has this tendency to really just annoy people. He loves to get under their skin. He loves to talk. He loves to needle. He loves to have fun. He's a social media dude. He's a YouTube guy. And so he's got this constant stream of patter going. And that doesn't always sit so well with people, especially like Rory McIlroy, who like to stay in their own world. So I hope these two are matched up on Sundays. They have head-to-head matches. All 12 players from each team match up with one other guy from the other team. And I'm hoping that Rory and Bryson will be matched up.
Before I move to the European side, I want to get your thoughts on Keegan Bradley, Team USA captain. What makes him uniquely positioned to have that role and be captain? And what does he need to do to get the most out of Team USA?
Yeah, what's interesting is that mostly Ryder Cup captains in the past have been guys that are a little bit past their playing time. They might be in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s, and they're not really a part of the core that's playing on the team. They're a little bit removed from them. They're kind of a generation before them. Keegan Bradley was playing. Not only is he a member of this generation, he was playing so well that he almost made the Ryder Cup team. He was in line to make the team himself on his own playing merits. Now he decided, for the good of the team, to pull himself out, and not Keegan Bradley, the captain, did not pick Keegan Bradley, the player, which in retrospect was probably a wise move. It would have been really cool to see, but in terms of the greater health of the team, what he can do is exactly that. He said, I sacrificed my dream. It's been my dream to play in the Ryder Cup. I sacrificed that dream to play for this team. I want you to put your personal needs and your personal ambitions to the side and work for the good of the team. And so far, it seems to have really worked. That decision not to pick himself, to bring another player onto the team, seemed to really work well in terms of motivating the team. And we'll have to see how well it works once the tee shots start on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at this European team, they're returning 11 of their 12 players from 2023 in Rome. Team USA, however, only returning 6. How much of an advantage does that give Team Europe? Is that continuity going to maybe rear its ugly head in the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, I think it very much could. I mean, this is the team that Luke Donald put together in 2023 and just absolutely dominated in Rome. It was just a really well-crafted team, well put together from beginning to end, from number 1 to number 12, and they worked together as a unit. That's the big knock on the U.S. is that the U.S. is a collection of talented individuals. Europe is a unit, is a group that works as a team. And unfortunately for the U.S., there's a lot of truth to that. The way that Europe tends to approach the Ryder Cup is a lot different from the way that the U.S. does. And the way that this team works together is that they are much more connected, even though they cross different nationalities, they come from different locales. They seem to be able to put their own personal needs aside and work together as a team. And yeah, having the same 11 of the same guys, and then the other one was a twin of the other player in 2023, Nikolai and Rasmus Højgaard. That lends a kind of continuity that's almost unseen and almost unheard of in the Ryder Cup. So this European team is going to be very, very tough to beat. Generally, the home field has a huge advantage, and about the crowds, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But in this case, this is a European team that could very well step into Bethpage Black and win it right out from under the U.S.
All right, Busbee, make me smart. So when I'm sitting in a bar and this is on, right, and somebody from the European side comes up, I want to be able to be like, oh, man, this guy that scares me. Who's the person like? And then everybody be like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Give it to me.
From the European side, that would be big shot Bob McIntyre. He has not won a major yet, but he's come very, very close, and he has this kind of demeanor to him that is absolutely unflappable. I mean, he goes, not only that, he goes and we'll give it right back. I think that we're going to see this guy going straight back at the galleries, because the galleries will just rip every single player, and you'll find out really fast who can handle it and who can't. I mean, there have been cases of European players who get absolutely just overwhelmed by the gallery and they start missing putts. And what happens then is that the gallery will start cheering, which you generally don't cheer for someone to miss a putt, except in the Ryder Cup. So, but McIntyre is the kind of guy that can stand up to that. He can give it right back in the same way that McIlroy does. And I think that he's going to be the guy to keep an eye on. And if he plays well, the European team is going to roll.
But the one advantage that the U.S. has is it is on U.S. soil. This will be taking place in New York. I think New York sports fans are still drunk from the U.S. Open. They still have honeydeuces in their system. Probably going to have a couple of drinks when they're on the course at Bethpage. So what kind of advantage does that give the U.S. having this event happen on U.S. soil with some rowdy New Yorkers in attendance?
It is a tremendous, tremendous advantage. The home team has almost always won, going back most of this century. The home team has almost won. It's largely because of the crowd, because the gallery is so loud and because they're so raucous. You're going to hear a million USA, USA, and then what will happen is they'll find something about every single player. I mean, these are New Yorkers, they know what they're doing. They're already combing through their research now. They're trying to find out, whose grandfather did something horrible, and they can scream that out at them. And so they will do their research, and they will be able to take on these European players. They'll figure ways to get beneath their armor, and so that's what you're going to see. And it's there was a lot of question, a lot of concern about that because, no disrespect to New York fans, but they are New York fans. There was a lot of concern that this was just going to turn into absolute anarchy, like hockey bleacher fights out on a golf course. So the ticket prices to get in are hugely expensive. I mean, they were starting at like $750 face value. And the idea, the thinking was, the kind of conspiracy thinking was, they priced them that high to keep the kind of bleacher bums out of this. Now, I'm not sure how well that's going to work or not, but anybody that is there is going to be not only likely to be loud and obnoxious, they are expected to be.
I want to go back to something you were talking about with Keegan and the decision to be a captain. So much as saying, well, you can't captain and play. Just why? If you're a capable player and a good enough player, what is it about being a captain that takes so much away from you that you can't also play?
So much of the Ryder Cup is psychology. I mean, yes, you're right. If everybody plays to their abilities, then the Ryder Cup is a walk. Then the U.S. is able to go and just absolutely take out Europe, no problem. The U.S. has more talented players across the board. But so much of it is psychology, the ability to understand who's playing well and who's not playing well. Because what happens is there are 4 separate sessions, and each session, team sessions, and each session is a pairing. So you've got to decide if player A and player B are getting along, if player A is supporting player B, or if player B is undercutting player A. You've got to have a real read on that. And there's so many moving parts at once. It's not, it would be great if it was as simple as, all right, everybody go out and play your best, but it's not. It's a lot trickier than that. And so Bradley is able, in a position now where he can go and analyze these things in real time and decide what the best pairings are, what the best matchups are, who's going to work well. And there's just so many little elements to it that I wish I myself had went on record saying I wanted him to play because I thought it would be really cool. But in retrospect, it's probably better that he has as a more overall picture of the entire U.S. team and is able to deploy his assets that way.
All right, give it to us. The important question: who's lifting the Ryder Cup trophy?
I'm going Team USA, but it is going to be very, very, very close. I will say they win 15.5 to 12.5. So I think that's where we're going. But it's going to be nerve-wracking. It's going to come down to the last few matches on Sunday. It's not going to be as easy as I think the U.S. would like it to be.
I don't know, Busbee. I think like home soil makes me think of the Olympics, like in the 80s, like the gymnast that goes out and does the vault and lands the perfect 10. Like, is there somebody that's going to have what was it, like perfect 10 moment? Gymnast comes off the vault, perfect 10 moment. Who's going to have that? Who has the big
I would
moment?
love that. I would love that. I would love to see Scottie Scheffler just ascend to the level of golf legends by doing something like that. I think he'll probably be out a little earlier on Sunday, but I would love to see Scottie Scheffler because I'm all in on the Scottie Scheffler dynasty. I want to see him win everything. I want to see him start to get into the legitimate Tiger Woods conversation, and this would be a great way to do it.
Busbee, you're the best, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the insight. Can't wait for this. You've made me even more excited. Thanks for the time.
Great. Thank you,
Appreciate you, Busbee.
See ya.
Always a good morning when Jay Busbee comes by. All right, we're going to get some insights on the latest news in the NFL. Jori Epstein going to join us next. We'll get some insider insights on Yahoo Sports Daily.
You're a person. You're human. You're like there's a piece of you in there that like it hurts you a little bit. You want to react to it, but you can't. I mean, like I talk about it a lot. Like that's being a pro and being in this sport. That's not who you can't be that guy. You will not survive.
Flacco talking about being booed as the offense didn't play well enough for the Browns. Jori Epstein joining us now on Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. I have a question on that, and Jori, I'll get there in a second. But I do want to say, in a very human moment, years ago when I was touring, I had a Major League Baseball player that was being booed a lot. He was in a slump. And he said, I can't explain to you what it feels like if you know that an entire arena full of people paid money to see you do what you do. And as you walked out, in my case, to play the biggest fiddle solo of your life, the 20,000 people that paid to be there mercilessly booed you and told you you sucked before you had to do it. It is a very weird thing that athletes have to deal with. And I appreciate Flacco being honest. Jori, with that being said, you and I think, my God, we've talked about Dylan Gabriel more than anybody should. It was on Inside Coverage, which you should check out every day. Is it time for the Browns to be considering a quarterback move?
Is it bad if I come on a show and say, no, it is not time for the Browns to be considering a quarterback move? I think there's a couple things here. I think, first of all, the Browns are coming off a win. And so if you say, how are they going to succeed in the short term? I recognize a lot had to go right at the end of the last game. I would also argue that the way that Joe Flacco handled the operation on that final play that he was on the field for is one of the reasons you still have Joe Flacco on the field, because of what a veteran can do when they understand the operation and the cadence. I would also say that, yes, on one hand, when I think about what I want for a rookie quarterback, I want a great defense. I want an offensive line. And when I see what the Browns defense is doing, that is what you want a rookie quarterback to have when they get there. But this is a team that is going to face the Lions, the Vikings, and the Steelers up next. Give Dylan Gabriel a break and let him come in after that. Like, if you want him this season, I understand you want to know what you have, but not for the Lions, Vikings, and Steelers.
A woman after my own heart in the pro sit the young quarterback debate versus the start the young quarterback debate. Fitz and I have been going back and forth on this for months. And I understand the Browns fans are feeling some type of way, but they won. You take a win in the National Football League. It's any given Sunday. One team that very much so did not get a win yesterday, though. The Dallas Cowboys. They got absolutely trounced by a Bears offense that didn't really feel like it had, found much of its identity through 2 weeks. And then in week 3, I mean, Caleb Williams just comes alive against this Cowboys defense. How do you think the Dallas Cowboys front office, Jerry Jones and company, feels about the Micah Parsons trade today?
Yeah, Caroline, it's a great question and a very relevant question, because the Cowboys' next game is on Sunday Night Football hosting the Green Bay Packers. So the entire country, if not entire world, will be able to see what Micah Parsons can do against the Cowboys and what the Cowboys are able to do without Micah Parsons. All that said, I would still argue that Micah Parsons is not the Cowboys' problem. They have much deeper problems. I mean, this is a team that was allowing 7 plays of 20-plus yards to Russell Wilson last week, and we saw what Russell Wilson did against the Chiefs last night, or maybe I should say what he didn't do against the Chiefs last night. It was not a pretty sight, and he was throwing for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys. Caleb Williams struggled through 2 weeks, while all of a sudden you got on back-to-back plays, not back-to-back series, back-to-back plays that Caleb Williams was in yesterday, 35-yard touchdown and 65-yard touchdown. And to me, what was most striking is when Bears head coach Ben Johnson gets on the podium after his first win as a head coach and talks about the 65-yard flea flicker touchdown and why they decided to run that play against the Cowboys. And he was saying his staff looked at what the Cowboys were doing, saw the film, and essentially it was like, hey, this is a team that can't handle the deep ball. We should run this play. Well, until the Cowboys can handle the deep ball, it doesn't really matter if you have Micah Parsons or not. Would he help? Maybe on some plays, but they're not getting to the point where they're really able to pass rush guys and have third down obvious passing situations, because the deep ball is such a problem for that Cowboys defense.
The other problem they may have now is the CD injury. Any updates there? How do they even factor in success without CD?
Yeah, and I understand that the Dallas Cowboys offense looked much better when CeeDee Lamb was like briefly on the field yesterday, and even a little bit afterwards. Like, this is a team where they said, "Hey, we're going to have Dak, we're going to have CeeDee, and we're going to have George Pickens, and that's going to be our crew." And when they have those, the running game has actually looked much better than I think a lot of people expected for Dallas, because they've been able to have the balance of the run and the pass, because they have the threat of CeeDee and the threat of George Pickens. They didn't respond well to losing CeeDee yesterday. They didn't respond well, especially as they fell into more of a hole, a 17-point hole. It's looking like a high ankle sprain for CeeDee. CeeDee wanted to get back out there yesterday. Jerry Jones and multiple people on the Cowboys said after the game that it was not as bad as it could have been. So, like, it does not appear by all accounts that CeeDee like broke his ankle or anything. To me, the question is, if you have a high ankle sprain, I think if they were playing, I don't know, the Giants or someone next week, CeeDee might take a week off. But because it's the Packers on Sunday Night Football with the Micah Parsons implications, I do worry a little bit of, I'm not saying it's like medical malpractice, but will this team not give CeeDee the ability to fully heal, and what would allow him to be at 100% or 95% later in the season? That's something I think we should keep our eye on, given the way that he's running his routes and juking the way that he does.
So let's talk about an actually good team in the NFC now that we've talked about the Cowboys. All right, who do you believe in more? Tampa, who, mind you, is 3-0, but has won all 3 of those games in the last 2 minutes, or San Francisco, who's injured in a shell of themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it, Fitz. I believe in Tampa more, and it's in large part because of their health. And I'm sorry for the San Francisco 49ers that health is such an issue, but this is not like, oh, you had one game where people got hurt. For years, we've seen this as a problem, and I think part of it is the guys they've taken a chance on. I had someone in the league tell me last week, hey, what is the number one predictor of whether someone would be injured? And it's past injuries. And the 49ers have a lot of guys coming into the NFL and in the NFL with past injuries. And that is a case, and it's not just, oh, bad luck. It's more compensating injuries. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that these types of things happen. So I would say when you look at Tampa, when you look at the way that Baker fires up the team and the way that they were able to honestly quite incredibly move forward from the Tom Brady era without a fall off and find Baker Mayfield, who just fits that team perfectly, I do believe in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's also hard to not believe in a team wearing those uniforms. Those are the best throwbacks in the NFL. I will die on that hill. I love the creamsicles.
Okay, let me just be an old man for 1 second. Okay, I was talking to some friends about. I love these jerseys. I love them. I love them. When I was a kid, if you had worn these Tampa Bay unis to school, you'd have gotten beat up. They were hated in the 80s. They were reviled in the 80s. So, like, everybody looks at them now and says, why would you ever have changed them? At the time, they were so wildly unpopular, they had to be changed. So it just reminds you how much fashion changes, because, like, if you had, like, there were players that just absolutely didn't want to play in Tampa Bay because they had to wear the creamsicles. And now we're like, oh, my God, you get to wear the creamsicles. Just old man reminding everybody these were hated at the time. I love them now.
I mean, you also had shag carpet in the 80s.
That's so the 70s, Caroline. I'm not that old. Come on.
Whatever. I wasn't alive then, Fitz. But you got bad taste in the 80s. These are great.
That is fair.
But
Colors are so funny to me. I'm the type of bride who, like, at my wedding, they're like, well, what the color scheme should be? And I'm like, color scheme? Don't I wear white? I don't know what color scheme. So, yes, I am not one to talk about jerseys.
But you are one to talk about, though, the AFC. So I'll ask you the same question that Fitz asked you about the NFC, about the AFC. The Chargers and Justin Herbert. Like, Justin Herbert has been playing like the Justin Herbert we've been promised since he got drafted in 2020. And then Daniel Jones is somehow figuring things out and looking like an MVP caliber quarterback. So who do you believe in more? Who do you trust more? This version of the Chargers or this version of the Colts in the AFC?
I trust the Chargers more than the Colts, and it's because they've actually had some adversity already. When Rashawn Slater went out for the season, I thought, oh no, is that the end of the Chargers, or the end of the Chargers being a great rather than average to good team? And then, oh, you lose Najee Harris yesterday, but oh, it's fine. You have a Marion Hampton. I mean, I'm sorry for Najee that he's hurt, but in terms of the ability to move the ball, I think this is a Chargers team that has shown that they have a lot more depth than they had last year. And the second year of general manager Joe Ortiz's roster, I think that was an intentional decision when they were building the roster. And so I would say it doesn't matter what country they're in. It doesn't matter if they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and it doesn't matter who's injured. That is a team that I think has been battle tested even through 3 weeks, and they are showing they could do it. The Colts, on the other hand, they're fun, but they're kind of like the Vikings last year to me, where I expect them to win a lot of regular season games. Like, good for Daniel Jones that he should have a contract, whether that's in Indianapolis or elsewhere. But I don't know if by the playoffs I'll feel like they're going to be a team that we can really feel great about. Now we'll see, but for now the Chargers have already shown with adversity that they can respond.
So, Jori, you've had a few days to talk to people around the league ever since Monday night when it felt like the Tom Brady conflict of interest exploded. And I felt, weird, honestly, watching the game Sunday with Tom Brady in it and just thinking, man, this is never going to go away. What's the latest sense you can get on where we are in this and how the league feels about it, how everyone's responding?
Yeah, I talked to quite a few people last week. I think it ended up being 6 front office executives and 3 coaches, just trying to understand how they felt about Tom Brady, both being a national broadcaster and a very clearly involved part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think that when I have a conversation like this, that it's so easy to jump to a conclusion. I want to say, well, how do the people involved care? And there was a mix. I ended up sorting it into 3 categories of the people who are like, this is clearly an unfair competitive advantage. The people who thought, it doesn't really pose much of a competitive advantage, particularly for the Raiders in this state. Sorry, Fitz, I know they're your guys. And then there's also the people who said, we don't care. He's not able to do much. If anything, Chip Kelly in the game plan is more of a concern to us than him sitting in the coach's booth. I think when it comes down to it, the NFL has decided it is okay with Tom Brady playing by a different set of rules than everybody else. And Tom Brady being given this different set of rules is well within his rights to follow them. This is not Tom Brady's ethical fault. This is the NFL saying, we want Tom Brady and we'll take him however we can get him in as many ways as we can get him with Fox and with the Raiders. What I will say, listening to the entire broadcast that Tom Brady had of the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, both teams that, as mentioned, the Raiders will play this year. I actually thought Tom was way better than last year on the broadcast. And so you could say, why was the NFL loosening its restrictions on Tom being able to be a part of production meetings? He's still not able to go to these teams given his role as the owner, but he is now able to participate in them virtually. I did feel like there were times where he's like, hey, here's what Dennis Allen wants, or hey, Ben Johnson wants Caleb Williams to be more of a point guard than to kind of go off and do crazy things. And here's, Matt Eberflus, he wants this 4-man rush and he wants them. There were several examples that I felt like Tom Brady's broadcast of this game was a mix of conversations he had clearly had with coaches and players, his immense knowledge as a quarterback and ability to read the field, which I thought he was more comfortable breaking down than maybe last year in the booth in terms of how he explained that to an audience. And then part 3 of that is just that he was willing to draw upon his own experience when they were talking about how tough Ben Johnson is on Caleb Williams. They asked Tom, they were like, oh, well, how did you feel about Belichick being tough on you? And he was quite honest. I thought he'd be like, oh, yeah, I know I need to be an example. He's like, no, I wanted to kill the guy and be like, do you know how many Super Bowls I've won? And I thought that that was just a more real Tom Brady than it felt like we saw in many of the games last year. So I will say if Tom Brady continues to improve as a broadcaster the way that I felt he had from last year to yesterday, I don't think there's going to be any complaints or any rule changes.
You mentioned it's not Brady's fault, and I will say loudly, I agree, by the way. He was sold a percentage of a team at a massive discount. He's being offered opportunities that most players are never offered. Is this just a Tom Brady rule, or is this the new precedent for certain iconic players? Like, is this the future for Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, I don't know that I think Patrick Mahomes probably would want an ownership stake. We've already seen him take ownership stakes in other things. Like I believe the Kansas City Royals are one of the teams he has a part ownership stake in. I would say that if he wants to broadcast, he probably could, particularly if he had the success. The NFL, I don't believe, will be subject to giving this to other players. I think what I'll also say is, what if teams said, we don't want to meet with Tom or we don't want to tell him anything? That's fine. And that's well within their right to particularly say, we're going to give him just coach speak. But teams don't want that because the Caleb Williams of the world still believe they can learn more from Tom Brady than Tom Brady can learn from them. And especially if the Raiders aren't actively threatening the Chiefs or someone like that for a Super Bowl, I really just don't think that this is going to make the level of impact that it could threaten to make if this were a different team. I also think that if they were in the NFC East, Howie Roseman would probably do something about it because Howie's always the one who actually goes after people and like finds them like 1,400 compensatory picks. But I think he's fine because they're in the AFC.
Jori, you are always the best. You can watch her on Inside Coverage Monday through Thursday at 6:30 p.m. right here on yahoosports.tv. Jori, we always appreciate you hanging out with us, my friend. Congratulations, by the way, newlywed.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Fitz. Great to be on a show together again. Caroline, glad we're finally on a show together after being passing
Finally.
ships in the night.
Way
So I will
over.
see you guys soon. Yes. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. From Jori to accolades all across the league, it's time to give out some Fitz bumps. That's right. Doing it next on Yahoo Sports Daily. That's the most adorable fist bump you will ever see in your life. Monday, let's do this. We don't do fist bumps here. No, we do fist bumps. That's what we do, damn it, on Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. And this is where we give some accolades to people that we haven't necessarily mentioned throughout the rest of the show. So I want to be very clear here that certainly we've already talked about some of the big performances. This is our chance to just suddenly go across the room and go boop to somebody else that deserves it. I will start, my friend, with Fran Brown, head coach of Syracuse football. Why? Actually, the fist bump goes straight to Fran Brown's wife because winners get washed. And we know that meant he got to shower because Syracuse took down Clemson. After listening to Dabo just about, if you don't like what I'm doing here, I'll go somewhere else and win, will you? Because what you did is you got your butt kicked. I mean, Syracuse went to Clemson and said, not you, fat Jesus, over and over and over again. I was stunned to see Clemson out physical, out explosive, out everything. And frankly, outcoached. Fran Brown got that shower after the game because he deserved that shower. Syracuse gets a big win, and we are reminded that Clemson, of course, they can find some weird way to win the ACC. Okay, maybe that's the path if you're a Clemson fan, but you're using voodoo dolls at this point because your actual football team, Caroline Fenton, is no bueno.
Soft as baby doo-doo. That's what Clemson is. Syracuse won it, and it really wasn't even close. There was really never any point in that game where I thought, oh, Clemson's going to come back. Oh, Clemson's going to do it. Because Clemson doesn't get that benefit of the doubt anymore. Clemson doesn't get that, well, they're Clemson, so they're inevitable. They're going to come back. Nope, not anymore. Not around here, partner. Winners get washed, and Clemson is stinky.
Yeah, Clemson is what Nebraska is now. Used to be really good, now pretty useless. Give me one that you've got your eye on as somebody that gets a fist bump.
I will stick in college football. Perhaps you may have Googled him, Fitz, because he told you to. Because all he does is win. I'm talking about Curt Cignetti in the Indiana Hoosiers, who just hung 63 on Illinois, a top 10 team in the country. Now, I didn't believe that Illinois was a top 10 team in the country, but I do believe still today that Illinois is a really good football team, and Indiana had their way with him. Fernando Mendoza completed 21 of 23 pass attempts for 267 yards, 5 tutties, not a single pick. Indiana rushed for over 300 yards and 6.5 yards per crack against an Illinois team that's sound defensively. They don't tend to make mistakes. Didn't matter. Indiana was just that much better. This Indiana team is better than the Indiana team that made the college football playoff last year. And I understand last year, Indiana was kind of the poster child, kind of the butt of the joke of scheduling really easy teams and having an easy path to the CFP. This year, I don't think Indiana needs to have an easy schedule to get to the CFP. I think they're just that good. In fact, I think they just punched their ticket to the CFP with a massive win over Illinois on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on that. I think this gets them in. And by the way, Illinois is still ranked number 23. So even if we don't think they deserve to be number 9, you just beat the number 23 team 63-10. That's a statement. I'm sorry. That is an absolute statement. Congratulations, Kurt Signetti. You have actually officially turned Indiana into a football school. I thought that was impossible.
Windiana.
Windiana. There we go. I'm going to give a little personal accolade out here on a Fitz bump. Goes to Eric McAllister, the wide receiver for TCU. Listen to this stat line for TCU. And I know TCU doesn't move the needle for a lot of people. 8 catches, 254 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is a day. When you are talking about, I just want to go out and have a day. They took down SMU, a team that last year was in the college football playoff, and obviously this year isn't very good. They roll them 35-24. That really wasn't the biggest part of it. The biggest part of it to me was that as you watch this game, and I'm that diehard, just enough of an idiot that I had this game on, you saw that, man, right out of the gate, TCU was going to him every single time, and there was nothing SMU could do. They rolled coverage. They did everything they could do. They were chipping him, doubling him. Did not matter. He absolutely housed it. So I had to get a little love. Like, these are the moments. Humble brag as a Bolitnikoff voter. I keep an eye on these things anyway. And 8 catches, 254, 3 touchdowns against SMU. To me, Carolina is an absolutely stellar performance.
I just did the math here on my handy-dandy calculator. 32 yards a crack. That's what that averages out to. 32 yards per catch? Great heavens. My goodness.
I love it, by the way,
because Bolitnikoff voting, because he deserves a look. I would also like a vote, but, you know.
I just also love the fact that when we were in high school, everyone was like, what do you think? You're going to have a calculator everywhere you go? Yes, I am. So suck it, math teachers. Go ahead.
Literally. Yes. Okay. I will stick in the state of Indiana. Apparently, I'm in a very Indiana mood today. I will go to the WNBA and give a Fitz bump to Kelsey Mitchell, who has truly been unfreaking stoppable and unguardable throughout the entirety of the postseason so far. But really, ever since they went through the injury woes of losing Caitlin Clark and Arian McDonald and Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson, Kelsey Mitchell's like, that's fine. You're good. You heal your injuries. I got it. I can take it from here. Because in a win last night over the red freaking hot Las Vegas Aces with MVP and co-defensive player of the year, Asia Wilson, the Indiana Fever hung 89 points on the Aces, took down the Aces 89-73. Kelsey Mitchell had 34 points. She has 1 game in the postseason shy of 20 points. And in that game, she had 19. Kelsey Mitchell has been able to pick up the pieces of what felt like this broken Indiana squad, put it all back together and tie it up in a nice little bow because she is inevitable. You can account for at least 20 points a night from Kelsey Mitchell. And then you add in Odyssey Sims, who joined the Fever in late August. She had 17 last night. She has also been such a wonderful Robin to Kelsey Mitchell's Batman all postseason long. So Fitz bump to Kelsey Mitchell for not just keeping the Fever in it, but keeping the Fever at the top of the conversation.
Yeah, Asia, by the way, you see there, 16 points on 6-22 on the day she receives her MVP. Sort of a surprising night
day
for her. And, I just have a hard time believing that's going to be the stat line for game 2. But look out. I mean, the number of times we've sat here and said, this has been fun for the Fever, but now it ends. I don't know. I mean, if I'm Vegas, I got to come back and recalibrate some things. We got one more Fitz bump to give out, and it goes to baseball in the entire state of Ohio. That's what we're doing here. We're giving out state awards. Why? Because if the MLB playoffs actually started today, both Ohio teams would be in. All right, Cincinnati has found their way into this. And then you see here, a quick non-college football tweet. What the Guardians are doing right now is perhaps the most underappreciated story in all of sports. Now, many of you are saying, what in the hell are you talking about, Bobby? What we are talking about is they have won 9 of 10, and they are on an absolute streak. They've erased a 12.5-game AL Central deficit in less than a month. The Tigers have absolutely melted down. The Guardians have absolutely caught fire, and now we get a 3-game series this week that could be for all of this. I mean, the absolute chaos. I spent my Sunday hitting everybody I could possibly think of up, talking about the Cleveland Guardians, and that in and of itself, I know most of you haven't looked it up. I would tell you look it up, especially this week, because Caroline, if the Guardians stay this hot, it could be one of the best stories, not just in sports, but in sports in the last decade, the way they've come back.
The Guardians are that meme that's like, call an ambulance, but not for me. That's the Guardians. We were left for dead. Look at that. You see the playoff chances right there is basically at 0, and it has skyrocketed so much of a path to a championship or making the postseason is getting hot at the right time. You could not ask for a hotter team at the more perfect and opportune time than what the Cleveland Guardians are doing right now.
We are officially a Big Dumper show, to the fact that last night on Sunday Night Football, I had a second TV with Seattle baseball on. What is happening to my life? But you know what? I think we're going to adopt the Guardians around here, too. We will be back tomorrow right here, 9 a.m. Thanks to everybody that watches on YouTube and on yahoosports.tv. We will see you in the morning. Thanks for hanging out.